And the elections that will happen in Europe tomorrow will also take us downhill, because what happens in Europe is that we don't longer hang on to the ideas of human rights, for example. Let's take Italy, which now, what is it, 60, 70 years after the Second World War, is actually starting to like the ideas that were for a long time a shame for Italy.
Yeah.
But nowadays isn't anymore, because Europe has a tradition of scapegoats. We had it during the Second World War, and we for certain starting to have it now as well. This hasn't happened in Sweden yet, and I think that Sweden is around 10 years after the rest of Europe, because in the rest of Europe we don't just have the right and the left, we have the right-wing extremists as well, and this is the three strong political forces. I would say that the strongest political force in Europe at the moment is the right-wing extremism in its different forms. And I don't know why, but it feels like we have forgotten why and the meaning of having democracy. What we are saying by voting for this party is that we don't fan the idea of people equality. Equality between people is not that important anymore. It's different questions that are important. But I don't know. Maybe that will. It's different problems, but it's still about democracy, I think.
Yeah, and allow me to say that also Europe is not really helping the Egyptian people.
No.
Because the governments of Europe unfortunately only care about their economical interests in the region and in Egypt, their investments, opening factories in Egypt and stuff like that. But they don't really care about democracy or... let's take Sweden for example. I just a few days ago learned that the editor-in-chief of one of the biggest official newspapers in Egypt received an award from Sweden for supporting freedom of speech. How come this guy receives an award when his newspaper has proven to publish lies about the opposition and about their activities? This is not really helping the democratic change or democratic reform in Egypt. This is also this is hurting us. It's not helping us at all. Also an ambassador of a European country, I don't want to mention its name, once said that, okay, we understand that there are differences between Egypt and Europe. Egypt has been run by pharaohs, and pharaohs used to have their sons as pharaohs too. So, and Gamal Mubarak is a good person. So, is it Europe is supporting Gamal Mubarak coming to power after his father? Europe is supporting dictatorship? What the hell of kind of crap is that? We're dependent on them, and they are letting us down. They are not really helping us. And the only one that's really trying to do something is the States, the United States. And it's not liked even in our country because of its double standards, of its handling of issues for their own interest. So it's not trusted. But we love Europe, we trust Europe, but the European governments are not really doing anything to help. They are even doing stuff that damages what we're doing. I see a Swedish activist meeting with Arab kings, like King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. For what? They want to have good relations with a dictatorship. For what reason? Are they going to benefit the people? They are not going to benefit the people this way.
Let me give an example of how Sweden can act and how Sweden has acted. A couple of years ago, we had this quite known story about two guys that was they were suspected for terrorism, which led to the CIA actually came to Sweden, took them and flew them
the
to
rendition
Egypt.
stories. It's all over Europe.
Yeah, and what happened? Because this is delicate story for the Swedish state,
Yeah.
because we can't send people to a country where
is torture.
where there is torture. So the Swedish state has to find out, has these people actually been tortured? So what do? Well, they send their ambassador to this prison, and the ambassador goes to this prison and meets one of the guys who doesn't say anything about being tortured.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah.
So he goes home, writes a story back to his own country, Sweden, saying there's no problems at all.
Yeah.
He hasn't been tortured.
Yeah. Of course.
After a while, when he starts to do more visits because he has to follow this up. But he can't suspect anything. But on one trip, the Swedish man from the, I don't know if I'm correct here, I think it's a Red Cross. His name is Thomas Hammarberg. He meets one of these guys, saying, well, this guy has been tortured.
Yeah.
He sees it directly. First of all, the first weeks when they usually gets tortured, they are not allowed to meet him, of course. And he can see from what this man is saying that he's been tortured, and he says this to addresses this. Well, I guess you're wrong. I think he's been tortured. And the Swedish state says, well, no, we know this because we sent our ambassador there, and the ambassador, of course, don't want to get too unfriendly with these people that they meet in other occasions as well.
Yeah.
So we send ambassadors, which is there to keep up good relations to Egypt. And we think that he is the one who shall decide whether this man has been tortured or not. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Our representatives in this country are there to keep up the good relations. And you can't blame someone for torturing someone else. That's not a good way to keep up good relations.
Yeah, of course not.
This is the strangest thing about countries when they are discussing things. We are not allowed to know what they say because it's so fucking secret.
Too much for transparency and too much for democracy. Yeah.
So I don't know. Why are they acting? How could I know? Because I don't know actually what they want. And if I ask them, I won't get any clear answers. I can get answers that will include nice words about freedom of speech and democracy, but that's not.
Are they supporting it? This is the question.
Yeah.
Are they supporting?
And we don't
freedom
know
of
because
speech?
they say that, well, we addressed a couple of issues when we had this meeting, but we don't know how, we don't know when, we don't know what they say.
Because they want investment, they want cheap labor, they want to open factories, they want factories that are close to the markets. If Mubarak dies tomorrow, all the scenarios are possible. But only one thing that is sure. We, the people, the Egyptians, we don't have a say in it. The United States have a say in it. The Israelis, the Saudi Arabians, the Europeans, all of them have something to say about who's going to run the country and who's going to run their own interests. But we, the people, will not have a say in it at all. Unless things change, unless we have real political parties and independent media that is free, and we have a civil society that is doing its job, because the civil society job now is being done by the government, which is not doing its job, and it's being done by the church and the mosque, which is really dangerous in our society. So we need a civil society that is alive and active and doing its job. We need a state that has its own institutions. We need a constitution that is solid and stable and puts into consideration lots of the stuff that the Egyptian people need. Other than that, no good change is going to come.